You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you.
Welcome back to Data Center Therapy, a podcast from IVOXY Consulting that talks all things IT with a healthy dose of empathy. I'm your host, Matt. If there was no I in VDI, we'd all just have VD. Yeti. And alongside me is my co-host, Matt Cozzolino.
Hey, everyone. Welcome.
No,
I didn't know we were making those
dive
kind
into
of
the wide
jokes.
range of technologies. Yeah, that was a nice way to start it, wasn't it? Let's just skip the formalities here. We're going to jump right into it because that just broke me. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. Nothing like a little coffee and VD joke in the morning, right? Let's get to the announcements first, get that out of the way because it is very important. It's exciting. Hands-on network automation class with Ansible coming. Yes, coming in January. So we're kicking off the new year with a new outlook. Hopefully we'll be a little farther along in the pandemic response and everything else, but our very own Keith Emanuel will be teaching hands-on network automation with Ansible. It's January 19th through the 21st. Reg, I believe, is open because we've got a web URL here. So
we're talking about it. It better be.
IVOXY. Yes, ivoxy.com/Ansible. Nice and easy to remember. ivoxy.com/Ansible. So want to jump in because I'm anticipating those slots are going to fill up very quickly.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, how are you anyway?
I'm good. I'm good. I just moved and I'm super stoked about that. Also, I'm actually looking forward to that Ansible class because I get to, as I understand it, I get to be the co-instructor person and be there for it. So I get to kind of go through and help some of the stuff also.
So this is like a modern R&B or hip-hop track. It's like Keith Emanuel featuring Matt Cozzolino,
Yo.
DJ
Squeaky.
Beard. DJ Newhouse.
There you go.
There you go.
His house.
Well, so what's cool is that this class is going to be on our, that we're talking about. It's this very super meta, like recursive podcast because that class is running on the IVOXY lab that this series is talking about, that we're now talking about with our very own VDI master, Ryan Grelck, who's joined us this episode. Ryan,
welcome,
hello.
Ryan.
Hello. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Mats.
This is like
The Mats.
labception.
How you doing today, Ryan?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That is very, very cool to have you on here. This is your second or third time on the podcast, I think?
Yeah, third, I think.
You're an old school vet.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
We've affectionately referred to him as Magnum VDI at this point because he's got that Tom Selleck classic going on up north there, north of the old choppers.
Who did that? Did you do that, Ryan? Did you do the Slack image for yourself?
Oh, that Photoshop?
Oh, that was me.
That was
Yeah,
you?
that was
You put
Matt.
that together,
Yeah.
Yeti? That was nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there's just a
dusted off
little bit
the-
of cheesy Photoshop skills on it. Like you can tell it's just a copy-paste picture.
Back in my mid-20s, well, hey, watch yourself there. Back
No,
in
just
my,
it's
back
like
in my
just the right
mid-20s,
amount.
I worked. Yeah, I was working in upstate New York, where I'm from, and I was working at a hospital. And a couple of my friends, we had Photoshop skills. I mean, we were very busy. We were very, very busy in CubeLand. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But in our free time, we would Photoshop and make jokes. And I swear we almost got hauled in front of HR too many times to count. But I brushed off those skills, dusted them off, and broke it out for a special guest appearance for Magnum VDI. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that accompanies this blog post. I don't know. I mean, Ryan's showing a little bit of chest hair in that picture. Yours or fake or real? I don't know. I guess that's up for you to decide. Thanks for being a good sport about that. So yeah, about our lab and Ryan's participation in it. Ryan, being our Horizon guru, I mean he built up that Horizon piece component. So Ryan, give us a little overview of how it fits in, what it's comprised of, and challenges we might have run into. Just kind of let me know how you tackled this.
Yeah, sure. So we built the Horizon environment back when 7.12 was the latest. So we installed the latest and greatest. We haven't done any upgrades yet because we're running the classes, but eventually I'd like to get on Horizon 8. Yeah, I mean it's production, so we need to do some maintenance on it eventually. But I'd like to get to Horizon 8, 2006, or whatever the latest version is, whenever we're ready. Because that would be great because there's a lot more exposed API and some built-in swag, and Matt Yeti, you would love that, I'm sure, because it's an easy, quick reference, and it outputs the scripts for you.
It's like it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other, but it's I'm on the fence, only not in a bad way, but it's like, okay, well, we had to make a commitment to the version that we were going to install. And even though 7.12 was the latest and greatest, it also is at that point almost like, oh, exchange with the latest cumulative update. It's tried and true,
Service
it's
Pack
mature,
17
even though
or
it's
something, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, it's not something .0.
Yeah.
So, you get that warm fuzzy, okay, this is baked in, this is a lot of people using this, great. And then we developed our automation against that version, which, to your point, conversely, it is not as robust from an API standpoint. It's much more of a workaround. You got to build little JSON spec files and then inject them with this hacky Horizon PowerShell module. And now you're telling me, oh, this is now a first-class citizen, this and that. Great, wonderful. Now we have to basically start from zero on the VDI side from the automation aspect, which is the downside of that, right?
Yeah, that's just automation in general. That's just how it works.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Yes.
That's always the constant challenge too of what we're doing, in that you say you'd love to go to 2006, the 8 version, but it's production. It's a lab, yes.
Yeah.
We have our sandbox, but that really is only for our own experience. It does not commingle really with the underlying infrastructure for the classes, because we can't risk that. It's a production environment.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly what it was, is that workaround. So Ryan, are you saying that with 8, I think we covered this in a couple of things, we get a lot more API and we're gonna be able to not have to do that PowerShell stuff?
Well, it's still going to be PowerShell because VMware is all about Power CLI.
They are,
Yeah.
actually. That's a thing. That's a thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
Well, I think the API being published means that now if I want to write a Terraform provider, I can.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Ryan.
I think it's still going to be using that HV provider from GitHub,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of that underlying stuff that the HV provider built is now available. So
Horizon feels like maybe this is just a quick thought, or a hot take, but it feels like Horizon's a good model for a state orchestrator like Terraform. Like, I want this many desktops, but the only problem is, what you don't want to happen is the environment managing itself outside of Terraform. That's the only downside, because then Terraform loses track of what's going on. So if that one desktop gets torn down or rebuilt, as long as it comes back in the same manner, I suppose that's not a problem for Terraform. But Kazzo, does that jive with what you're thinking?
That got me thinking also. I think if I was writing Terraform and doing that for Horizon, I would not necessarily write to the VMs themselves, but I would write to Horizon. And instead of saying I need 10 VMs, I'd say I need a pool, and the pool quantity needs to be 10, and then let all I'm doing is defining the pool, and then Horizon's dealing with the rest of it, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason that we're creating a whole bunch of one-user desktops is because all of those client, student desktops all are also in their own NSX group, networking group. So normally Horizon can handle creating hundreds of desktops all with the same config, just different machine names, no problem. I mean, that's what it's built for. So we're kind of, not using it as far as what an enterprise user may use it for, but
maybe we do. You got me thinking. Maybe we do like some tagging on our Horizon environment, and or do per user security rules, and use that to do our route
segmentation.
Yeah, then we can just dump everyone into a single pool, and look at this. We're building
right now
stuff
we're doing
live.
a pool per user. we're doing a pool per user with a single desktop in that pool. Theoretically, could we create one pool for all of our users and then leverage tags to isolate them and put them in their own? Because one of the thing with that, Ryan, right, is that each pool defines a network that those desktops are going to live in. And that's right now, as far as I understand, why we segment out the pools, because each user has their own individual environment. But
Right.
can you go in after the fact and I think this is a challenge, because I think you can certainly change the network backing port on any VM once it's up and running, but there's how it talks back to the connection servers with a Horizon agent, and the timing of that, and then if you want to switch the network. So I'm guessing it's not really meant to have that activity happen.
No, it's supposed to stay on that same network
Yeah.
segment.
There's the what we're doing right now, and it might be a thing we solve kind of a little bit with NSX. Right now, every student and their pod is getting their own tier 1 router, which means that they're plugged into the same device, and that device has a interface in each environment. If we commingled all of them, we'd run into issues with multiple networks, so we'd have to do like VRFs on a single instance, but then all of the student pods could be in a single one, and then we could write our policy using tags for the VM, and the user in Active Directory pod user 1 gets
Right.
pod 1, and then do routing that. That might work. That might be a little
And
more
would that-
complicated than we want to do.
Would that be better for resources also?
I think that would lead us more towards being able to decouple the Horizon deployment from the pod builds. I think that would be the biggest piece that we'd gain from that. Because right now, it's a multi-step process, right? We deploy the network for all the pods, then we deploy all of the student VMs, and then we layer Horizon on top of that. And so to back it out, we have to take all the Horizon out. And then
You would save a little bit of provisioning time if you could have a single Verizon or Horizon pool versus 20. I think. Is that true, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, like your script, your vRealize orchestrator script that you have, it has to go pool by pool
Yep.
and update the network backend,
Right.
and that just takes time versus doing it all at once, creating them pool, and then creating desktops is just really fast because we're doing instant clone.
Right. Yeah. And at the same time, you're like, okay, what are we gaining, right? Because we pre-provision before the classes.
Mhm.
We let it cook for a little bit. If it takes 3 minutes or 30,
yeah,
it
we're
really
talking about a
doesn't
handful of
change
minutes.
our ability to do anything. Right. So,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking just if there wasn't that weirdness with the Horizon agent needing to talk to the connection server at various times, you could theoretically go in there after the pool's been created, and using tags or whatever you want, you could map each virtual desktop of that pool. Ooh, wait a minute, Ryan. Entitlements are done at the pool level, not at the desktop level, right?
Yeah, it's at the pool level.
Yep. Nope. You
Well,
could
no.
get really weird with programmatically having him log in and getting their own thing, but
That's
it would just shift the assignment somewhere else.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it would, but we could give everyone a persistent pool or a floating pool. I'm not entirely sure which one to do that. Effectively, I don't care which VM the student gets, because then in NSX,
Right.
I can say you
They
are
stay there.
student 3, so that means you get this security policy applied, which gives you access to pod 3. That kind of a thing.
Right, because it's an AD
Mhm.
user
Mhm.
scope. Yeah.
Yep. And all you're really doing is moving the chess pieces or moving the checker to where you want this decision made.
Right.
It's not necessarily wrong or right? It's just how you have it set up.
Right. Where do you want to put
Yeah.
that management time? Management time, more and more these days, I'm running into like, let's build this thing, and it's like we can do this and we can build all this work, but that means you're going to create more management overhead for yourself to be able to accomplish this. So do we want to build that, or do we want to do a simple deployment for customer
Well,
X, right?
two kinds of management overhead: manual or the upfront work
Mm-hmm.
to put the automation framework in. That is not insignificant either.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the smaller the end result that you're trying to paper over with automation. Usually that kind of like a pool versus a desktop instant clone, right? The overhead to create a pool 20 times there's that non-variable, there's that static run-up time to every one of them that takes X amount of time, and then your savings are, if I want 3,000 desktops, all those instant clones fire up. But that stepping stone is always a big, long first step.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, there's the acronyms, the alphabet soup continues apace. What about DEM rules or whatever? I'm sorry, I have to make that joke. It used to be UEM, right? And it used
it used to be UEM. Then VMware decided, hey, this is a much better acronym for another product, so let's go ahead and use it. Use it there. So it's in Workspace ONE, UEM. So right now it's called DEM, or Dynamic Environment Manager, and what that is allows we set it up so our students have a custom. We're putting in pre-populating settings. So like in Shane's class, I'm dropping some files in the desktop for them. For Keith's class, I'm setting it up so that all of his PuTTY configs and stuff will be available, so that
like pre-provision
when the
PowerShell.
student pre-provision everything for them, make it as easy as possible for that, so that the instructor has a lot less work to do.
I like how we're building up
makes it
these use cases where the more and more classes, the further out we go, more of the work will already, now 80% of what you need to accomplish is already done. Let's tweak this a little bit here. And that number should only increase for every subsequent class, right? For reusable code. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm doing a conditional tagging for each class. So I'm taking the name of the class name. And if it's going to be a tag specifically for the network automation, I have it NABP, because that's what we call it on our back end, right? And everything that's specific to his class gets tagged with that, and then it'll be applied. So I have Shane's vSphere 6.7 class, VS 6.7. So I'll eventually have mine in there, with Horizon 8 or whatever we end up calling it, but
whatever they rename it to by then.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about like using tags for security stuff, but it also gives us the ability to do like, what created this component? Where did this come from? And so when we go, when we get done and we're looking at cleanup, we have a bit better of a view there. What about
Wait, you're saying you're doing that now?
Well, I mean, all of your scripts, Yeti, all of my scripts, Ryan's stuff, we're tagging. Everything's got the same class name
in the notes field, right?
Yeah, in the notes and in the VM
Yeah.
name and the whatever. So when you look at it, you know what it's built for, where it came from, kind of a thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more than just like we can do security policy, we can do this, that, and the other thing on it. It's a little bit there.
I know I've harped on it, but I'm not admitting wrong. I'm not absorbing that, but I'm honest, right? My opinions are strong, but when I have a revelation or a change, I'm more than happy to say, yeah, I wasn't getting it, now I get it. I just learn better with practical application. You could have whiteboarded Terraform to me, Cozzo, and just showed me all the bullet points and features and benefits and virtues, and I'd be like, yep, that sounds great. Show me where.
Now we have a
Show me
problem
where
to
your
solve.
life's better. Show me how it actually works, and it's not just this academic circle. You know what I mean? Like that just has its merit, but I need to see it in action. And this lab environment, class education environment, has really shown that it's work. And Terraform's great.
It's an education for us, really.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, exactly. And you know what? To echo your point, Yeti, I'm the same way. I can learn, read, and look. I deployed a virtual router, and yay! Now what? Right.
Right.
So having a way to build it, having a thing to do, having a problem to solve has been wonderful.
And we all have various levels of home lab that we all do, and I find that that's both great, and it can only take you so far. Virtual router in your home lab, Yay! What are you routing? My iPhone still works. Woo!
Yeah.
Like, and specifically, I think even more so, Docker falls flat for me because the ability to spin up and scale is not something I need to do at the home lab scale. And there's very little for me to realize there. You know what I'd like? An official Plex transcoder that I could scale out across my nodes. That would be something like that. That'd be cool. I know there's hacky ways to do that, but
there is one I had explored a little
use.
bit called, I want to say it's like
Yeah, I bet you
Unicorn
did.
Transcoder.
Yeah.
But actually,
Yeah.
that's a very good segue, because to make that work, you still end up with a bit of a kind of like load balancer situation. And I know, Ryan, that's one of the things we did when we were getting the class set up. Most of the projects you and I have worked on with Horizon have been at a customer site, and we're putting UAGs behind an F5, and we're doing actual load balancing. We didn't do that in this one, and what did we do instead?
So the UAGs have a built-in HA. They're able to do HA on their own, using a BIP and then switching between the two. Say if one node goes down, it'll automatically switch to the secondary UAG.
So it's like a virtual.
So that's what we have set up. Yeah, a virtual address. It works great. I don't know if we're ever going to get a load balancer, like an AVI or something in our lab, but
What about NSX load balancing features?
So that's one of the things we've looked at that. We've talked about that. I think we were considering exploring that. Weren't you having some issues with that though? Like I know I'd seen. Some
it was
Slack
one of the
messages,
Yeah, actually, what happened with that is one of the connection servers just went up and died, so I had to rebuild it.
Oh, because you're
so the connection server was still saying, "Hey, I'm fine," but if you actually logged into it, it wasn't working right. Something was wrong with the Atom database that synchronized.
And
between
that's
the
kind
two.
of like, if you do the load balancing thing, you either have to let the application natively handle it or have it completely dumb and then have something fronting it that's doing the balancing.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
we
we didn't try that, right, Matt?
No, so it sounds like we had it in kind of more of a active passive environment. So you had a UAG pinned to one connection server inside, right? 1-to-1.
Yep.
And so it was a UAG connection server active and a UAG connection server standby.
Correct. Yep.
Ah,
And
okay.
that's how it works. Yeah. It doesn't do least used or anything like that. It's just, hey, I'm number one until you say I'm not.
Until you're not, yeah. Okay, so that makes sense, because most of the deployments we've done, we've had a load balancer in front of the UAGs and then a load balancer in front of the connection brokers, and it doesn't matter because everything's pointing to the same IP, and the load balancer handles that.
Yeah, and usually we'll set it to least used or something like that on the F5s or whatever else load balancer side.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we do. Maybe we take a minute with that and see if we can get a F5 or a F5, get the NSX environment in front of it, specifically because we've got a bunch of that, and then we can.
Yeah,
Extending it to the edge.
There we go.
Why not?
Nice. Maybe we needed a smart Nick out there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's get a pie.
There you go. I got one right here. So, Ryan, with the classes, are you able to see how people are connecting? Are they preferring the web client? Are they preferring the Fat Horizon client?
It looks like most students are coming in through the HTML5, but there are some users who are coming in through the client, and I would recommend coming in through the client, because then you could easily span across multiple screens if you want, but you can do multiple screens with the HTML, but it only limits you to 2 screens. Like I have a weird geometry of a 1080p on my left monitor, a 1440p on the middle, and then I have a 1080p that's portrait on my right side. And Horizon with the client, it's like native Windows geometry. It works great for me. If I were to do that with like HTML5, it wouldn't work.
I tried the portrait thing. I have 3 monitors, and I tried the portrait thing, but I found that I was really physically moving my head a lot.
And instead, now we're going right and left, like. 180 degrees.
Yeah, yeah. And that, well, at least for the chair, spins right. But if I was at a stand-up desk, Matt, I think a vertical monitor would be no problem whatsoever because I'd be eye level and I just move my eyes really.
Mm-hmm. I find now, like, I do have the stand-up desk, but even now, even with this, I want, I don't know, another 6 inches, another 6 inches of depth to the desk, so that the monitors are just that much further back, like that, you know, just a little bit more would make everything right left a little easier, right left up down.
Now that you own your own home, Kaz, you can always choose to VESA mount your monitors right to the wall.
But then
or,
they won't go
you
up
know
and
what?
down with the desk. On the plus side, I did scratch up the desk on the move.
I'm sure you can work some kind of hydraulic, actuator to lift the monitors and automate that.
Stepper motor and a screw, and we'll call
There
if
you
this
go.
and yeah.
Point being, put holes in wherever you want. You own it now.
Yeah. The cool bit with it being a log cabin, I don't have to go find a stud.
Oh man, that's great.
One.
There are no stud finders in this house.
No needed. None needed.
Have you started running cables through the walls yet?
So today was my first this week was my first full work week in the new place. And I think yesterday was my first heavy WebEx session remote work that I've done, and I discovered that I actually do. I had one in the other house. I actually do need an actual cable to plug into and not be on the Wi-Fi when I'm working. So it's there. It's coming. That just got bumped up the to-do list a little bit.
Your attenuation's probably better than most, though. I'm guessing wood's not a terrible attenuator.
We'll find out when you go to post-process this. So you can drop in after you get done with this a little note on how I sound.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I mean from a Wi-Fi signal standpoint.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty good.
I mean,
it's full.
I think
bars.
it's better than
through a couple
sheetrock.
walls, yeah.
I think it's better than sheetrock. The problem that we had, the hospital that I mentioned earlier that I worked at, we undertook a Wi-Fi project and covered the entire 2 million square feet of campus in. It was actually, ever heard of Maru wireless access points?
We had that at the hospital I worked at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They operated on the A-band, which was really popular in Europe, but point being, it's an isolated, it doesn't interfere with any of the modality, any of the medical device Wi-Fi. It's relatively clean spectrum, all this. But most hospitals are older buildings, and you have security doors that have the glass with the wire mesh in there, so they're they're shatterproof.
Faraday cage.
And what does that do to a wireless signal? Poof! You might as well blow it through a metal colander, right?
Yeah.
We had one hallway down in the basement that the walls were that kind of almost ceramic coating on those cinder blocks. You know what I'm talking about? Those kind of glossy covered cinders on the side of the wall.
Yeah.
And then the ceiling was perforated tin. It was basically a Faraday cage without meaning to be. Yeah. So, and then given that my back patio with all the concrete, I was designing Wi-Fi out there because I've got devices reaching all over the place and having to worry about that. So wood is pretty forgiving. So you should be better than most. I think with your construction setup.
I already know the mother-in-law needs an access point, a dedicated access point, and probably one on the outside because it's a little painful on the other side of the house.
Is it a little too far away from your? Do you have a mesh network or?
I've got just a single AP right now, and I'm contemplating swapping out the wireless for for Ubiquity, the other
Eero.
Yeah.
Ubiquity. Oh,
something like that. I don't know. Not entirely sure yet. Not sure.
What's your farthest reach? You don't have any 200 or 300 foot shots, do you?
So.
Oh, is that it right there in the window right there? We could see.
That is over there. That's the corner of the mother-in-law. That's probably 100, 200 foot from where the Wi-Fi access point is to that, and then it's through 3 or 4 walls.
Those line of sight point-to-point radios from Ubiquity are rock solid. The Nanobeams. There's a number of products that they sell that do that, but Nanobeam is a great one. It can go like 5 clicks.
Well, I mean,
if
I can run a cable. I can actually run a cable
Yeah.
right there. So it'll be an access point in one and an access point in the other, one half, and then an external
Trench
access
it in
point.
some PVC and you'll be done.
Nah, through the attic, man.
Over the air, through the sky?
No, through the attic, through the roof, through the ceiling, from one building to the
Are
other.
they connected?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy
Okay.
then.
Okay.
Infrastructure.
Well, Ryan, are there any lessons learned from the first and second go round, essentially, with the Horizon component of these classes? I mean, we're kind of learning as we go in terms of what really are the problems that we run into. Did anything jump out at you?
On the Horizon side, not really. It worked really well. I know. Were one of you the second for Shane's class? Who was
Yeah,
the
he was.
second?
I was.
You were. Yeah, and you were using the Horizon Help Desk to help the students. I mean, that worked really well, I'm assuming. You know,
Yeah.
you could shadow
And
their
we were doing that
session and
through-
all that.
We were doing that to two layers of virtualization too, because we were all in a Zoom session, right? And so to communicate, and shout out to May Ruiz, our marketing coordinator. She is just extraordinaire at everything she touches, and the what do you want to call it? The conductor that she played during those classes and coordinating
Maestro.
everything was amazing.
Maestro,
Right,
yeah.
Maestro. There you go. And so she was sorting all that, getting us into breakout rooms, and then to virtually through Zoom, and then virtually, through our Horizon, get that. It worked great once we got it set up on the back end, right, Ryan? We had you had to get remote assistance enabled and Windows and all
There's
that.
some
but
image stuff, but that was
Hey.
not a big deal.
you get that sorted, and then it worked. It worked really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you guys
so,
are doing.
so far.
How are you doing remote assistance for people?
So it's built into Horizon Enterprise, which is what we're using in the lab. You just search for the username student 16, for example. Click on their session, and then go into their VDI session. And then there's a little remote assistance button. You click it. You download the MSRC
MSI.
incident
Yeah.
file, and it launches that, and you're just shadowing them right then and there.
Yep.
So it's
And
like
you
a
can-
screen
They have
share
to, there's a little
WebEx
user
type thing.
interaction, right? They have to accept it, I believe.
They have to accept it, and then they also have to, if you need to take control, they have to accept you taking control also. But it'll work great for you. The shadowing
really good.
Yeah, it's really slick.
Yeah.
Really nice to have.
That's cool. So I'll have to
Yeah.
brush up on that because I'm going to help with this class coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do some training.
It's an interesting experience doing it because you can't stand over anybody's shoulder in a
Mhm.
virtual Zoom class.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
matter, and I think we set ourselves up about as good as possible. I mean, it was as hands-on as you possibly could be from far away. But I would say, word to the wise, Kaz, I would just say, organize yourself as well as possible, because there could be multiple students at a certain time who've basically got their hands raised, and it's way tougher to do it virtually than it is in person, I would think, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
hang on, Fred, I'll be right there with you. It's different from a virtual standpoint, and all they see is silence. They don't see you over there working
hmm
with Pete.
Turns out communication's super important, huh?
Oh yeah, yep. But it's fun and it's interesting, and we had 2 sessions with Shane. One session was very chatty and engaged. The other one was much quieter. It's just the type of personalities you get. But I think both classes really went off well and were well received. So it'll be fun to see the Ansible stuff, because you'll get some scripting going on, some YAML will pop out there, right?
Yeah. A lot
That's
of
pretty-
Linux in that class.
Pretty huge. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there is. Pretty big. What is it? GitHub server desktop that we cloned for everyone. That thing was massive, and we had to trim some fat out of that.
Oh, what was it?
Git
64
Lab,
gig, 64 gigs of RAM and 8 CPUs originally.
Something like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's go down to 2 and 4, and it, Postgres is like, hey, I can't run. I
You
don't
know.
have my 700 gigs of memory available.
You know these network guys, they're pigs. They don't care.
Dude, just CPU. Throw some USB drives on it.
No, what do you mean? You don't have custom ASICs for that? What do you mean? What?
Offload that to hardware. Right?
Yeah, actually, those switches are doing an awful lot, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Well, I have, before we move on and wrap up here, I have a never seen that before, which is, something that I get tired of saying sometimes. But yeah. It wasn't really huge, but I was helping a customer with an Exchange upgrade. And when I say upgrade, I don't mean like migrating from one version to another. It was actually just getting the latest cumulative updates installed. There are a few patch releases behind, and everything you want to take care of with that. One of the things that was weird was there are various prerequisites. One of them is .NET 4.8, and then you got to reboot the server, all that, right? Have you ever installed a program? It doesn't even need to be Exchange, but there is another setup that is pending reboot that needs to take place. Reboot, and you're like, no, man, I just rebooted, nothing, and I've done nothing since.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
There is a registry key, it's like local machine, current control, and then it's called session manager, I think. And there is a pending files key in there. So obviously you don't want to just go willy-nilly and kick that door down, because that thing exists for a reason, and if there's a legitimate install that touched system files, you're good. In this case, we saw it more than once. They had a whole bunch of spool printer drivers. And I don't know if it was, we had, the task at hand did not require us to go down that rabbit hole and troubleshoot. Whether they had GPOs that were pushing things down or whatever, whatever. But basically we just cleared the key, hit OK, and then carried on with our work.
Nice.
We looked at all the files listed, right? They were clearly printer drivers, so there was nothing catastrophic that was going to happen should we accidentally do something. But it was fresh after a reboot. So my theory is those would have persisted forever until manually cleared out. Something bugged and just left those behind. In any setup that checks for that registry key was going to fail until you cleared that out. So that was an interesting one. So wow. I'll pass that link along that I found that tip for where to clear that out.
It's a good one.
In the notes on the episode.
Toss it in Slack
give
too.
One up there. Yeah, I will. Yeah, my pain actually is worth something there, thankfully, finally.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you for joining us, man. It's awesome to have you back on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And just one more reminder, of course, January 19th to 21st. So you're about 6 weeks out here, so hop on it. Hands-on network automation with Ansible with our very own Keith Emanuel, featuring special guest DJ Newhouse Matt Cozzolino.
Whoop, whoop.
I like that one. Matt, thanks for joining today. This was a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, really enjoy it. I like talking with you guys.
Yeah, and if you don't already subscribe, find us on iTunes, Google Play, Google, whatever it's called today, Overcast, Spotify, wherever fine podcasts are offered. And if you haven't already also, and you're a subscriber, do leave us a review. We would very much appreciate it. If you like it 5 stars. If you don't, just call Cozzolino and gripe to him. He'll be happy to listen to you.
Totally.
And if you've got ideas or topics you want to hear us discuss, email us at podcast@ivoxy.com. For Ryan and Matt, I am Matt. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day, everyone.